All right, everyone, welcome to today's Step Up and Stand Out Spotlight Show. My name is Naina Kaputi. I'm your host and moderator for the event today. I'm the founder of the Expat Woman, a global platform to empower, engage, and educate professional women across the world and help them survive and thrive abroad. I'm also a coach, a consultant, and a trainer, and I help professional women, small businesses, and corporate teams to stand out, shine online, share their expertise and scale through helping them build their personal brand, their visibility, and their thought leadership. And I'm very honored and excited to have this wonderful group of women, all originally from Ukraine, join me today on this panel discussion about what is happening in Ukraine right now and how all of you can get involved to support them and their missions and the larger country and people out there. If you're joining us live, let us know in the comments where you're joining us from, which city in the US or other parts of the world. And if you're from Ukraine or you have family and friends in Ukraine, let us know in the comments, and then we will at the end address that. And if you have any questions, or you can do that as well. I'm going to have each of you introduce yourself, what you do, where you are from originally in Ukraine, and if you don't mind sharing also what brought you to the US. So let's start with a round of introductions. All of you have professional women and are doing, fantastically well in your careers, and are role models for other expat women and Ukrainian women and women in the US. So let's start with Iryna, and then we'll go around the room.
Hi, my name is Iryna. During peaceful times, I work as statistical programmer at Labcorp. Right now, my only job is to be Ukrainian. I use every resource I have to help my family and my nation. I've never been more proud to be Ukrainian. Ukrainians went through slavery. One of my ancestors was a slave. My grandparents were not older than 11 when they survived the famine created by Soviet leaders. Ukrainians survived the Holocaust. My grandfather participated in the Battle of Berlin. Ukrainians are strong. They know the price of freedom. Freedom is what they are protecting. And honestly, I don't know any better cause to fight for. I'll pass it over to Victoria.
Thank you, Iryna. Thank you, Nina, for inviting us. I guess I couldn't say it better. My name is Victoria Setkovska. I come originally from Ukraine, a little city Kremenets, which is in West Ukraine. I left Ukraine when I was just 19 years old, went to Germany, studied there in a Ukrainian university, Free Ukrainian University, which is the only private university worldwide, and where the entire Ukrainian elite was hiding while all the Soviet Union pressure. And 6.5 years ago, I moved to Bay Area with my husband, started completely everything from scratch here for my career, learned language, etc. And right now I am working at Amazon Web Services as technical sourcing recruiter, supporting our scaling, our team on their scaling journey. And I guess today I would probably say the same what Iryna said. Today I am just Ukrainian. I am proud to be Ukrainian. I try to help as much as I can, my family, my relatives, my friends, and my heart is broken to see what is happening. Thank you. Nataliia, to you.
Hi everyone, I want to welcome everyone who's watching this video. My name is Nataliia Karpenko. I'm Ukrainian American. I moved to US 11 years ago. And I want to tell you that how amazing to have an opportunity to have the peaceful sky above your head and about the head of your kids, to be able to say good morning or good night to your parents and really mean it and knowing that they can survive through the night. For the last 10 days, Ukrainians were not able to have any of that. I call my mom with the word, "How are you?" and just hope she responds with anything. It's been true for every Ukrainian who live abroad or in Ukraine. I work in Meta, and I'm a co-founder of number of startups. But this doesn't mean anything at this moment because my only role is to be Ukrainian. I've started a nonprofit, a partnership with nonprofit, and in the last 2 days we were able to raise $90,000 that already has been wired to multiple volunteering organizations in Kharkov, Kiev, Odessa, and direct deposits to women in Chernigov and Mariupol. Sources are scattered, but we're trying to do the most what we can until the bigger programs are coming from NGOs from abroad. So thank you so much for organizing this panel. I'm really thrilled to see these brave women, and also very proud for all Ukrainians who stand in and resisting against this horrifying war. To you, Anastasia.
Thank you, Nataliia, and thank you for everybody. I grew up in Dnipro, in Ukraine, central eastern part of Ukraine, and I was lucky to be first startup evangelist there. And then it brought me about 6.5 years ago to San Francisco to continue being part of startup ecosystem, building startups. And now my company before the war, and to everybody who's watching and who still calls it a conflict, I want to say it's not a conflict, it is a war, and people are fighting and dying. Before that, my company used to help venture funds and startups in raising capital, and right now we're applying the skills to raise capital for Ukraine. We have several directions of how we're doing that. One of them is a humanitarian fund. Second one is helping businesses who needs consulting, funding, help in relocation to continue building our economy. And the third one is it's a more long-term project which will help teenagers from Ukraine to get education, to overcome the crisis that our countries are going through right now and will be going for probably several more years after all this madness will stop. And as Ukrainian, I am sharing information about the impact of Ukrainian people, Ukrainian country on the whole world. I've been reviewing companies that's been built in Ukraine, and a lot of people are surprised that every single day they're using technology built by Ukrainians. And right now I feel like my mission is to help people know how huge Ukraine is beyond just the territory. And our people really need help and really need support, and we're a huge part of a global economy. Thank you so much, Olga.
Hi everyone, my name is Olga Mack. Today I'm Ukrainian first. I've always been Ukrainian first. I am a technologist, I'm an attorney, and I'm a business professional. I am leading a technology startup today. In the past, I worked at in-house lawyer, general counsel, in a number of startups and Fortune 500 companies. I very much resent when people refer to Ukraine as territory. It is not a territory, it's a sovereign nation, has been one before Soviet, during Soviet, and well after. So words matter. I invite everyone to refer to Ukraine as an independent country, which it is. There are a number of ways you can be helpful to Ukraine. Please, if you have relatives, co-workers, check on them often, because when you are in bomb shelters, that's probably the least you can do. If you are in the nations that happen to be in peace, like United States or in Europe, you have elected representatives. It is important for them to know that that's something you care about, and you should dial their numbers, write them emails, and perhaps even letters. I invite folks to do as well. My third invitation is to research. There are a number of causes, depending on your preference, whether you want to help children or all other efforts. There is no shortage of ways you can help financially. What I know for sure is that I've never regretted a thoughtful gift that I researched myself. So I invite people to educate themselves and find things that they're passionate about and make intentional gifts. As for myself, I am originally from Ukraine. I was born in the city called Kryvyi Rih, which is very close to where Anastasia grew up, Dnipropetrovsk. I've had an opportunity to live both in Russia and Ukraine. My first language is actually Russian. That doesn't make me any less Ukrainian. If anything, it makes me more Ukrainian. So, and since I've been 11, I grew up in California. So my invitation to folks to do the three things I outlined: one, check on people; two, check in with their representatives; and three, to make a thoughtful gift.
Thank you all so much for sharing, and I want to really applaud you all. I know this is really hard, just listening to you all talk about, your country being invaded, and the destruction, death, devastation is so hard. So I appreciate you being here and sharing with us. And before we go further, I also want to acknowledge everyone who's joined us live, and some people have just introduced themselves. We have Aneta from Irvine, California, Erica from Los Angeles, California, someone from Paris, France, and Cara from Stamford. And if anyone else is joining us, let us know where you're joining us from. And if you are originally from Ukraine, let us know that as well. So some of you shared how people can help and get involved. I don't think everyone had a chance to do that. So, because there's so many. Right now, there's so much noise on the internet with links and how people can get involved. So, Olga, I like that you shared 3 things, for people to support and get involved. And also, there are a lot of Ukrainians in the US, lots of women like you, lots of families who have family back there, right? All of you are hurting. I mean, I know Nataliia, I've spoken to, I know her mom and dad and sister are there. Nataliia, I hope you don't mind me sharing, but you said your mom and sister aren't leaving because your dad might have to, fight to protect Ukraine because, men 18 to 60 have to stay back. And I know that's a story for many women and children having to, either say goodbye to their fathers or brothers or sons or stay back in Ukraine. And so so I know there are women here, there are women in Ukraine, there are women across the world who have family in Ukraine. So we also have, besides supporting the country, I think we also have to provide all of you with support and, through supporting your country, but also through you. So I just wanted to also bring that up and have, I just see Anastasia said you live in Irvine. So is there something, first of all, before we go into the larger picture with Ukraine, how can we support women and men who are outside of Ukraine and are trying to create awareness for their country and trying to get support or have, as Nataliia, again, you said you wake up every day or when you call your mom, you don't know if she's going to pick up the phone. And that's huge too, because, and I think I also saw your post where you said as a Ukrainian woman in the US, you feel so alone, right? So I just wanted to, maybe there are other Ukrainian women who are watching this or men. How can we first of all support people who are outside of the country? And then we'll talk about how can we support people in Ukraine. So anyone want to go? I just leave it up to you guys if anyone wants to add anything.
I just want to maybe complete some of this sharings that you provided here. So yeah, guys, I was sharing some posts and I would say, first of all, make sure when you're making donation, this is a legitimate source. You want to make sure resources are going to support whether Ukrainian army or organization such as Nova Ukraine, which is based in Bay Area, just fundraised $1.5 million of the funds to support Ukraine in a different ways. There is also other organization called Razom, which is also Ukraine-based and US-based organization that are helping. Make sure you go to the source that's been proven by Ukrainian government or US officials, and we'll provide this information to Nina to post afterwards. So make sure you don't support just random GoFundMe campaigns you're not aware of. Personally, for myself, because I have my family in Ukraine and I have all friends from university, from my hometown, I am able to develop the network of the people who are able to distribute these resources or find organizations that they're on the ground. But I recommend people who just know me and trust me to support my cause. But I would not ask people to support random people if they don't know where those money going to, and what kind of the follow-up and report this organization are sharing. I think just be cautious, but your participation really matters. Every day it's getting more and more challenging to get resources until the bigger NGOs able to build the green corridor to build some of the provision from the abroad. So your help now is very critical for Ukrainians.
Thank you for sharing that before anyone else jumps in. So Nataliia, do you see the comments on the right-hand side? You see the comments on this? So if you can start sharing the links while, it'll be helpful because people are joining us. And I just want to shout out to Mrinal. She's joined us all the way from India. And then Aneta, she's from Poland. And she says, I stand with Ukraine. So thank you everyone who's joining us and sharing your support. So Nataliia, if you can just share the links in the comments. Do you see the comment link there? Do you see the comments?
Well, I see the chat. I'm just
So just add all the links there. So anyone else want to jump in and add to what Nataliia said or what I said earlier? Go ahead.
I would like to add here, and specifically really following up from Natalia's comment, many companies are matching donations. For example, Apple is collaborating with Nova Ukraine, and they do match 1-to-1 or 1-to-2. So please take also advantage of those resources, leverage that, check out with your companies if they are matching, and support this cause too. And in general, with regards to how people outside US can support Ukrainians outside of Ukraine, just be compassionate. We all are not mentally here anymore. I cannot speak for everyone. I haven't been sleeping since everything has started. My brain doesn't work. It is really hard to continue working, to stay strong, to always check in with the families. The first thing what we do in the morning, it's just checking with the families. Are you okay? Are you alive? The last thing we are doing at night, we do the same. So please just be compassionate with your coworkers if you have any from Ukraine. Another one is also, I want to call it out, you might have also Russian coworkers who stay with Ukraine. They don't want what is happening. They don't support that. Please be compassionate with them too. They haven't chosen what is happening. So we need to stay together, and this is the only way how we can really bring it to an end finally. Thank you.
I also wanted to add on, I would say everything that's related to people from Russia right now is a very sensitive subject. And I have a lot of friends who are from Russia who are coming to me, and they feel helpless because they are afraid to share anything on social media because Russia suppresses and puts people in jail if you go to protests. And it's not a joke, it's a serious threat. And to those who feel this pressure to share on social media and do something in that way, I want to tell you that this is not the only way to help. You can help by donating, you can help by offering your services, you can help by offering consulting or just reaching out to volunteers and helping them, because trust me and all the people, all these ladies in the room, that we are all very stressed and we all need help. And if you feel compelled to help in that way, it's also counts. So it's not really the time to be scared. It's not the time to be anxious. It's the time to act. And that's what the world, not just Ukraine, that's what the world needs from you right now, is to act. So find your way to participate in this. Find your way to act.
I want to add also that the list of what you can do goes on, and we will share all the resources we have, of course, in comments. But I think the most important step to helping is to stop watching news about Ukraine as an entertainment show. It is not a war between Ukraine and Russia. It is a war against democracy. There is a psycho with nuclear weapons who hates democracy of any kind. No one is safe. Today, it's Ukraine. Tomorrow, it might be your country. It might be your people dying while protecting their freedom. It might be your parents unable to evacuate. It might be your brothers and sisters hiding underground from missiles. It might be your children getting killed. It might be your babies born underground and dying without food. Words and sympathy are not enough at this point. Once people realize that, they will start to help by donating money, by joining protests, by writing letters to their congressmen. A lot of countries are starting to help Ukraine. The problem is, in many cases, this help is coming too late. I do believe that only the people can force their politicians to act more quickly. I hope they will, for all of our sakes.
So first of all, I wanted to acknowledge what you I think it was Victoria and then Anastasia said about, it's being compassionate to not just Ukrainians in the US or wherever you are, but also being compassionate to Russians. I run the Expat Woman, and one of the largest population or one of the largest representations was women from Ukraine and from Russia. And I know I am Facebook friends with a lot of them, and I see a lot of Russians, who are putting the Ukraine flag on their profile photo, trying to raise fund. I'm not trying to, but trying to support. So, because I mean, there are so many, that just like when COVID happened and there was an Asian hate, thing happening at that time, the same thing shouldn't repeat itself. So thank you for bringing that up. And I think, Iryna, so just before we go further, I see Chris from San Jose saying, thanks for your support in sharing ladies standing with Ukraine. So for anyone watching, one of the things you can do right now, because all these women are sharing very powerful messages and how to help. So can you invite people, if you go to the event page, can you invite people to come and watch this? They can watch it live, or they can watch the replay, so share it. So you can start by just spreading this message, because we're going to be talking more about how you can get involved with supporting Ukraine. And as Iryna said, tomorrow, if nothing is done about it, it's going to continue. There's going to, other countries are going to be affected. I mean, already prices are escalating. Gas prices, countries are already being affected. There's such an influx of refugees. I mean, the stories are heartbreaking from what's happening in Ukraine itself, and babies being born in bomb shelters. There's all this unnecessary death. So we have to come together, and we have to. It's a human rights issue first. Whatever your thoughts and whatever your differences. I mean, right now it's people are being destroyed, a country is being destroyed. And also, I think some of you brought up that it's not a conflict, it's a war, it's an invasion. So we have to keep that in mind. Be careful with what language you use, because this is a very sensitive time. A lot of people are hurting, and you have, when you're compassion starts with words. Okay, so if you can't do anything else, at least be compassionate about how you speak about this. So thank you for those of you who mentioned that. So let's continue. Olga, did you want to add anything to before we move forward? Because I know everyone else said basically about you work with women. I know you're on boards, and so how can corporate America, how can people in the US, because all of you are based in the US, and thank you for those who are joining from other countries, how can people get more involved with supporting people in the US, Ukrainians and Russians? And you said again, which is also interesting, that you've lived in both Ukraine and Russia and you speak Russian. I did want to mention, the other day I saw a post from one of my friends on Facebook who's Russian, who said she feels bad to even speak Russian anymore, because she just feels it's associated with evil and dictatorship. And so again, we have to, there are so many Russians standing for Ukraine. Yesterday I saw the last Russian independent news station, I think it's called The Rain or Rain TV. They were, reporting really what's happening in Russia and what's happening with Ukraine, the truth, and they were taken off air. So also, what can be done to get independent media in Russia really tell the Russian what's happening there. And I know one last thing, Anastasia, I know you're trying to get on Gary Vaynerchuk's show, you're trying to connect with him. So let us know in the comments. Maybe all of us could do something to help you get on his show, whatever. You can share a little bit more about that after Olga, what your goals. So if any of you have any individual goals as well besides helping Ukraine, let us know so we can also collectively help you get that, so we can amplify your voice and your message. So let's go with Olga, and then we'll continue with everyone else.
Yeah. You asked a question about what corporate America can do. Victoria made a really great point about being very careful that, there is consensus on this in Russia. Remember, this is a border where people kind of went back and forth now for a very long time. And Russia, one, is a big country, two, does not have freedom of speech, and three, has a lot of has a state that can punish you in the ways that will silence you. So I've seen some folks taking off, for example, their shelves Russian products, I think you have to be very careful here. You do not want to punish people on either side, because I do not believe this is Russians versus Ukrainians. It's a one madman show who really good at spreading misinformation. I'm yet to meet a Russian who will tell me that they will support what's happening. So if you are a leader in your company, I think you have to be very careful with sort of punitive measures. And I would really go above and beyond to educate yourself first. So at this point, I would actually advocate against punitive measures on any side. I would first and foremost focus on helping, trying to stop this conflict, assist humanitarian initiatives, making sure that folks are safe. There is a significant, threat to democracy here, but part of democratic process is education, and that's one of many things I've been doing. I'm sort of educating every, person I meet at a time to, and one of the best thing about, there is a silver lining. Americans learn about geopolitics and countries like Ukraine through conflict. And I've been a proud representative of my country, educating them about who we are, where we come from, what we stand for, how important this democracy in the world is. I personally, I think that as I'm educating myself about what's happening and educating others about my country, I'm very much inspired by the Ukrainian leader. This guy, Vladimir, has shown us what leadership means. I think through people like that who are visible and stand behind their words, we can all learn in the process and rally behind. So my invitation is that we continue doing that. And spend a lot of time educating ourselves about how we can be helpful and educating others about who we are.
I wanted to add that we're not going to win this war by more aggression or guilt shaming anyone, guilt shaming Russian people. I want to take an example of Ukrainian soldiers. I don't know if somebody haven't seen it on the news, but when Ukrainian soldiers are capturing a Russian soldier on a territory of Ukraine, they're not killing them. They're keeping them safe. They're giving them water. They're giving them shelter and food, and reaching out to their mothers so their mothers can come to Ukraine and pick them back home. This is the dignity of Ukrainian nation. And I think right now, those soldiers are giving an example of how each one of us can act. If you know somebody in Russia, and I know, Olga, you mentioned that you haven't met anybody who supports Putin. Unfortunately, I have. And people support Putin not because they're evil. They support Putin because they live in an informational bubble of propaganda. They're not bad people. They just don't know, they just don't have the right information. If for years they've heard that Putin is a savior, is the crown of the country, it's very hard to shift that opinion, especially from all the media when you're hearing that it's a peaceful mission. So something that you can help with, if you have friends in Russia, follow an example that Olga mentioned: educate people, educate them in a compassionate way, with peace, with desire to give them information, to open their eyes. You cannot force anyone to change their opinion. All you can do is to give an example. So I'm pretty sure that nobody who supports the war right now is watching this. I know all the people who are here right now are supporting the Ukraine and want to help. So again, if you have friends who are not sure, who are doubting, or who are supporting the war, give them peaceful message in a peaceful way. Help them open their eyes. Thank you.
Well, I would like to add something. I know I certainly agree with you that midterm and a long-term focus on helping Ukraine to take care of the nation further and help mothers and children is a key priority to have the right future. But honestly, I have so many friends, my previous IT team back in Ukraine, my classmates there, and it's been really hard to see that how disorganized the Russian army is when they come to Ukraine, and how Russian army really abuse Russian young men, taking them from very far eastern republics and dragging them to Belarus border, putting them in a tanks and making to go somewhere where they even not aligned where they're going to. So they are lost, they're hungry, they're frustrated. Some of them are already giving up and hoping that Ukrainians will save them. And some of them are just doing nonsense. And as you have seen, that really horrifying when the shootings are really happening, hospitals, kindergartens, schools, apartments. I have friends whose apartment house been bombarded for 2 days. So honestly, like I certainly for compassion and for thoughtfulness, but this is unbearable. And what people are not wanting to accept, taking lives and possibly millions of lives. So I think urgency, speaking to people you know who are having ambiguous thoughts about the world, is very critical. So I just want to emphasize the emergency of this. We have to stop this war. We cannot continue. Too many lives of Ukrainian and Russian people will be lost in this. And this is the worst role model to show what the price of democracy is by taking another country and nation. I don't believe democracy can be earned through the war, but we need to do something to stop it immediately.
So I see more people have joined us, and Denise Carusi says, in these terrible times, I'm again inspired by women's leadership. Thank you all. And you know, all you are true women leaders. I mean, you're out here and online and on social media spreading the word, and I really appreciate that. So let's continue this discussion. You know, we've been, like some of you have shared what exactly is happening in Ukraine right now, but again, the media is skewed. We don't really know. So what is the best source to find out what is happening in Ukraine? Because sometimes people need to watch to really understand, and then they give, and then they support, and then they donate. So is there one channel over another? Are there any Ukrainian channels? Anything that can get people a better, because I watch the local news, and I mean they barely cover Ukraine. I mean, they're talking about cats and trees, and you know, it's just like, I just feel there's a world crisis happening right now. I mean, there's the war in Ukraine, and we're not really getting an insight into what's happening there. So anyone want to share anything around that?
I would say that one of the good resources is Twitter of Verkhovna Rada of Ukraine. I will put that in the chat. They are very urgent on their news, and they're sharing live streams. So you can see that it's not a fabricated information. And generally, Twitter, and I would even say on TikTok, there are several people who are independent bloggers who went to Ukraine to show live events and what's happening. So if you follow sources like that, you can know that, first of all, they're not political. They don't have political angle. They're simply showing what's going on. And second, that they're not going through any media that's usually censoring and filtering information.
If I can add, I think it's important to understand that one, Ukraine is a big country, and people experience this conflict differently depending how closely they are attacked, whether they actually under seizure, whether they actually have bombs, how close they are to Russian border, how large is the Russian population. So there is some variance in news, and some of it really actually depends from which part of Ukraine the report is happening. There are parts of Ukraine that are unfortunately devastatingly bombed. There are ruins and they're not inhabitable and safe. There are parts of Ukraine that, I'm grateful for that, are largely intact. So this conflict is very much unfolding, and that's why one of my invitations was to, if you have teammates in various parts of Ukraine, check in. I don't have family in Ukraine anymore. I do have a lot of middle school friends, and I have various coworkers that I used to work with and various teammates, and they are all over Ukraine. They experience this conflict in different ways. Many men serve today, especially if they are on the eastern side. The western side, that is closer to, say, Polish border, is not as affected. Kiev has been under siege, and that has been very consistently reported both in Fox and CNN. There is actually not much of a difference in the way it's reported, between essentially Fox and CNN. One of the few issues that both sides agree on in the United States. So I think it's a pretty reliable source of news there. It's just understand it's a big country and there is a variety of experiences. And depending on your age, gender, location, you will have this experience with war that is very different.
I just want to add really quick. So I totally agree with you that you would need to look for the most accessible sources of information in US, and like CNN, Washington Post, Guardian, and also in Ukraine, majority of channels adopted Telegram as a safe source. So it just sends the links, the Independent Kiev Independent, which actually shares the updates across entire country, starting from the regions are the most impacted to the ones that are least impacted. But certainly make sure you check your sources. And there are many people who share in TikToks and reaching out to me with the fake TikToks and asking me to explain what's happening. So just be aware, there are so many people that have an opportunity to use TikTok or some of the video editing sources as a vehicle to create the hoax. Just check your sources first of all.
I also want to mention one more way maybe to help. I've been doing it myself. From these Ukrainian Telegram channels, they post a lot of videos like of captured Russian soldiers that admit that they were ordered to kill civilians, for example. And since I know both Ukrainian and English, so I've been putting English subtitles on that videos and posting it on Facebook for my American friends to better understand what's going on. Another thing I want to mention that as horrifying as it sounds, and it is, killing civilians is horrible, but yesterday, it was a whole new level of terror because of fire on Ukrainian nuclear plant. if any of you heard about Chernobyl. So there was just one nuclear reactor that blew up in Chernobyl. And yesterday there was a fire in a plant that has 5 nuclear reactors, like in Chernobyl. So, and overall there are 15 nuclear reactors in Ukraine, on Ukrainian territory. And that just sounds like beyond anything imaginable, because today we worry about children being killed, and tomorrow it might be the whole Europe being killed, you know.
Yeah, and we have more people joining us. I see Lucy. She says, thank you for gathering these great leaders, appreciating this timely information. Jen Rose says, important voices. And Jorgen, who I knew at Yelp, says, thank you for hosting Nina. So appreciate that. Again, most of the women, everyone except for Iryna, who I just met today, has been part of the Expat Woman for many years now. And, you know, I'm so glad to bring you all together to be the voice for Ukraine. I'm going to bring up a very sensitive topic. So again, please, I don't mean to offend anyone, but you know, the Expat Woman, we have a very diverse group of women. Some of them are women of color. And some women asked me to ask this question because they are Black or from Africa, and they said they have been seeing, or you know, in the news about Africans in Ukraine who have been trying to flee, but who have been told that they have to get off the bus because they're Black, or at the border they've been turned away. Again, this is all, again, we watch the news, we hear these stories. So I just, if anyone wants to share anything about that, or if it is happening, what can be done to, you know, because everyone's right now lives are in danger, and how can we change this, or what can we do? If anyone wants to touch upon that.
I would like to say on that point, I used to, my university used to have a lot of people from Africa and from even America, African Americans. And I want to say to those who are listening, our country is not as diverse as America. That's why for a lot of Ukrainians, meeting somebody from the other nation, regardless of the color, it's often a first-time experience. And a lot of our people do experience discomfort, not because they're angry, not because we hate other people, simply because it's new. And right now, especially in these times when it's hard for everybody there, I'm seeing more and more people uniting and including diversity of all kinds. So there is no, in my experience, I can't speak for everybody, but in my experience, there is no hate, there is no exclusion, there is no massive discrimination. You can experience it in, you know, single points, as in anywhere in the world, discrimination of any kind. And it could be about, you know, your weight, it could be about the way you speak. It's not necessarily about the skin. So please do not be afraid, and do not think that we discriminate. We try to grow as a nation. We try to be inclusive. We try to be diverse. And right now, Ukrainians are stepping up beyond anything I've ever seen before as a nation.
I would like to add to this. Everything, Anastasia, thanks for explaining the situation in Ukraine on this. And I want to address those situations that we have seen in interviews with foreigners in Ukraine are horrifying, and this is unacceptable. And Ukrainians think the same way. Those are horrible things. It's unfair, and we fully agree with this. And it's shameful that it happened to foreigners in Ukraine. But I want to also cross the parallel that there has been 1 million of people of Ukraine already left Ukraine through multiple borders on the west. There are only few trains coming from each big city. There are many Ukrainian women, elderly women, and men left behind. So they also not able to fit in those trains. So there is a huge panic. And that's why it's not an excuse. And I know Ukrainians are very aware and they're very united. But in time of panic, there is a lot of havoc, and just the most horrible things. But I don't want you to pick up on those single episodes, because as Ukrainians, we stand and we've been resilient, and we have been living through the racism from Russian nation for a long time, even being very similar. There has been a lot of suppression. So we're very aware how it feels, and we're very compassionate. Majority of Ukrainian university, they have international students from India, from Africa. And also there are so many entrepreneurs in the last 10 years open businesses in Ukraine. So if you come to Ukraine, they have now Chinatowns in Odessa. They're doing successful business. There are so many communities now evolving from international people building entrepreneurship hub in Ukraine. So Ukraine is very accepting and evolving nation. But I want to ask forgiveness for any of those people who have been impacted from foreign nations. This is unacceptable.
Yeah, if I can add, I'm with both Nataliia and Anastasia here. This is a very young democracy. It's diverse, maybe just in a different sense than United States is. There are a lot of religions. There's a large Middle Eastern population. There's a large Asian population. There's a very large Jewish population, and in fact, as you can see who the leader of Ukraine is, it's a democratically elected Jewish president. I have to say, I am grateful to see this happen in my lifetime. This is a nation that has been openly anti-Semitic for quite some time and has made significant progress. Having said that, it's also a very young democracy, now has in flux, an introduction to other regions of the world, and very much under pressure and learning to kind of more about others and be accepting, and definitely on the journey, as all of us everywhere, including United States. Learning about other people is something that we do intentionally as adults, and very important. I am with Nataliia here. I will ask forgiveness for any misunderstanding or intentional acts that have been happening, or unintentional. That is not acceptable, and I know we will learn through this. I do want to make sure that this is not a focus of the conversation. The focus of the conversation today is how we help this, what is clearly a humanitarian act. We need to stop this. This needs to stop, and we need to help people in need. At some point, we absolutely need to address numerous other things, including how this country can get better and more educated about the world, including how we're going to prosecute criminals, including how we're going to rebuild this country. All of those questions will need to be addressed. Today, the question is we need to focus on is how we're going to stop, and how we make sure that there are no lives lost. That's the most mission critical question today.
Do you want to go, Victoria? Go ahead.
Yes, I just wanted to add to the same. So basically, I am with everyone. And on another note, nowadays we are just experiencing how Ukrainian folks is coming together and how they really try to help each other. My family is located in West Ukraine. I was begging them several times to leave. They say they will not be leaving. They need to help Ukrainian people. My nephew, he is a soldier in a local protecting army. So they all come together. They don't cry. They don't cry anymore. They laugh. They do together. They move nets. They prepare food together. And they do also host foreign people. I do absolutely understand many, there are maybe some situation where there is a chaos happening, and obviously we are experiencing something like that. But at the end of the day, people are really united more than ever before right now. And we do certainly see those specific situation examples. And I guess for all of us, it should be really just a sign, hey, how we can help to really do the good and not focus on those particular aspects. That is something, like Olga said, we can address later on. Just wanted to mention this aspect.
I also think that as romantic as all this uniting sounds, people have to understand that it is still a war. And it's very hard to understand if you never experienced something as bad as a war. And I want to use my personal example. My sister used to live in Kiev, and my parents live in central Ukraine. My parents are of retirement age, and their health doesn't allow them to evacuate. And original plan of my sister was to help them to evacuate somehow. But 2 days ago, she and her husband and their daughter, they barely escaped bombardment near Kiev, in Kiev region. And they decided to go to the west of the country. And I know for sure that my sister would never leave our parents alone unless she was terrified. And I can see how, like, no one should have a choice like that. No one.
Thank you all so much for sharing and being vulnerable and, you know, giving your different points. I know this was not part of the discussion, but again, I was asked to ask this, you know, so I appreciate you addressing this. And one of the things that struck me about Ukrainians, whether here or in Ukraine, is the bravery. I know many of you touched upon that. Like, you know, people who, like, I think there was a beauty queen and now she's fighting for Ukraine. There's like some millionaire, some boxer, I mean, your own president or head of state. And so many people, just today in the news, I saw this gentleman going back to Ukraine, even though he has a wife and kids, to fight for his country. So I can see this immense pride and loyalty, you know, from your people, from all of you, which is tremendously impressive. So before we move forward, I just want to recognize Nicola Korzin. She says, deeply appreciate the thoughtfulness to the entrepreneurs and their families that have been displaced and who are fighting for their lives and livelihoods. So thank you for that. So I'm going to have you all share final words. And if anyone who's watching it has any questions or comments, just type it in and we can try and address it. We have 8 minutes left. So if you have any questions for anyone in particular, you want to have something to share, go ahead and do it in the comments. And we'll do just a quick round robin. Any last thoughts? And then of course, I'll ask all of you at the end, after this is done, or even at the when you're done talking, to share any links in the comments as well. So let's go backwards this time. Let's start with Olga. And any last thoughts, anything that you want to add to this discussion on supporting Ukraine and, you know, just being showcasing what's going on and showcasing the people of Ukraine inside and outside.
Yeah, Ukraine is a sovereign nation, has been for a long time. It must be able to enjoy the integrity of its borders. And the focus today should be on stopping this atrocity. This war is unacceptable in 2022. I never thought I would now worry about essentially what effectively is becoming World War III. We can do better than that. My invitation stands. When I started, 3 things: check in on folks you know. It really helps to check in on people. I now check in on many people and do this daily. And the gratitude, when you are in a bomb shelter and you're hearing from someone who cares is massive. And the problem with this war going on for a little while is that at some point it becomes normal. There's nothing normal about war. And so I invite people on the human level, connecting with whomever they can, to let them know that we're still thinking, praying about them. Gifts of monetary value are helpful, and I invite people to educate themselves about culture and opportunities to help. And I do want to make sure that you do not underestimate the importance of contacting your representative and explaining to them the importance of 1, democracy, and 2, that there are people in their jurisdictions who deeply care about this issue. The Ukraine is on some level small nation, on the other hand not that small, and the people who care about Ukrainian are worldwide. My invitation to folks is to really make sure that their elected officials know about it and they will be held accountable for the choices they make.
Thank you, Olga. And thank you, Nina, first of all, for sharing this video with the English-speaking community. I want to emphasize on what Iryna said about the nuclear plant. and a nuclear danger to the world, not just to Ukraine. I'm starting seeing messages on social media where Americans are saying what to do in the act of the attack, nuclear attack. And the whole message is basically, if the nuclear bomb is going to hit your city, you have high chances of surviving just by hiding in your house. That message is extremely wrong. Positioning yourself with the mindset of whatever happens, I'm just gonna hide in my house. This is the exact reason why we have this war right now. Endanger everybody right now, not just Ukrainians. Wherever you are, whatever is happening in Ukraine is affecting you directly. And if you're watching this right now, I would highly encourage you, the least that you can do is to share this video with your community. There has been 5 Ukrainian women, and Nina is our representative, who's been sharing true information that's happening with our families, with our friends, and with our nation. And we shared many ways how can anyone support and help and act. So do your part, spread this video. It gives a lot of tools to anyone who will watch it. And I appreciate anyone who invested their time on Friday morning to be here with us.
Just continuing on this message, I want to thank, first of all, the supporting nations such as Poland, Romania, Hungary, Moldova. Those countries have been accepting Ukrainian refugees and giving them love, safety, care. We're really grateful for those nations, and your humanity and our gratitude is endless. The second one, I want to address Russia and the way that there is a peaceful way for Russian people to stand up for the peace in Ukraine. Ukraine is a sovereign nation, it's an independent country, and it's been invaded by Russian dictator and Russian army. So there is only one way to stop it, to stop attack from Russian army. Ukrainian army only protecting their own families, their land and their families to survive in this horrible attack. And the third one, please make sure, consider donation, reach out to your corporation and see if your colleagues or your company can provide a bigger match donation to support Ukraine today. Thank you. Victoria?
Thank you, Nataliia. I would like to continue here. And first of all, I would like to say thank you to everyone and every person in the world who is right now with us, who is supporting us for everything you all do. It means a lot. And I would like to mention that every single contribution does count. I know many of us, we are thinking, what can I personally do? You can. Every single person can do. You can join protests. You can donate. You can check on people. You can just comment, like, and make sure that the fake information doesn't go around. So there are many, many ways. And last but not least, what I would like to mention is my fellow sourcers. There is one initiative. So I am a technical recruiter, and if we have here recruiters or sourcers, there is one initiative which has been created by sourcing community, worldwide sourcing community. It calls hashtags sourcers for UA. So if you want to join sourcers army and help our Ukrainians get information that they need, please reach out to me. I will introduce you to organizers. What they do, they are getting tasks from Ukrainians, local Ukrainians, and they are looking for some specific information. For example, today they had 2 hours hackathon and they were looking for medical toolbox, basically for our army. So they have different tasks. They usually have 2 hours hackathons, and that's how they are supporting. Please feel free to reach out to me, and thank you so much. Iryna, to you.
I strongly believe that only the people can stop this war. Each and everyone in every country in the world now, today, should go to protest. protest against the war. Only the people can force politicians to act now. There is a war in Ukraine that happens every day. There is no time to have long meetings and take time to decide if they're gonna close the sky or not. It has to be closed, and it has to be done now. And only the people can force politicians to do that. So please, my message to you is don't stand aside. As Anastasia mentioned, this position of standing aside and being not into politics is the exact reason why this all is happening. Please do your part, whatever you can, to help Ukraine now.
Thank you all for sharing that. These are very powerful last words. So first of all, those of you who are watching this live or later, follow all these 5 amazing women on LinkedIn, because I know all of you are posting constantly. That's why I invited all of you to speak, because I have a large network of Ukrainian women, but you guys were standing out with everything that you've been posting and sharing, and not that the others aren't, but you just stood out. So I've asked people to follow you, connect with you. I'm going to request you all to share any links that you mentioned after this is done. I'll send you the link. It'll just be easier if you share it instead of sending it to me and then me doing it. And then I think, Victoria, you mentioned about a hackathon. I am the Expat Woman. We host a hackathon every year during Women's History Month. So I do want to dedicate one of the projects of the hackathon to finding solutions, resources, getting people involved in supporting Ukraine and especially Ukrainian women. So I'll be sharing more in the comments. And we are also doing an International Women's Day networking event next week on Tuesday, virtual networking event. If any of you are free, because that one people can get to speak to you one-on-one, because we break up into breakout rooms. So in case people, if I'm going to reach out to you after this and see if you're available, so then maybe some of you can join. So those are some of the things that are happening, and I hope I can continue to support all of you, your country, your fellow men, your families, your friends. Again, you are brave, amazing women. And I just hope this is just the start. And someone, sorry, I'm just distracted. Wendy said, I'm so sorry, my kids and their friends are experiencing the realities of war for the first time in their lives. All of you shared things that some of us don't even think about. So I so appreciate that. I know you have busy lives, so I'm going to say goodbye, but let's not end the conversation. Let's continue it in the comments there. And again, everyone, please follow these women, connect with them. Thank you so much all. Have a wonderful rest of the day. And I will do whatever I can to continue to amplify your voices and support you and Ukraine and your fellow men. All right. Thank you.
Thanks, Iryna.
Thank you.
Bye.
Ladies.
Take care.